My name is Mandy Botsko-Wilson. I am a principal architect at VMware and VCDX number 189 in cloud management.
Thanks, Mandy. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk through a little bit about your VCDX, ask you some questions about yourself and your journey, and maybe talk a little bit about the future.
All right, sounds good.
So tell me about your journey to actually get your VCDX. How did that happen, and how did you end up doing all of that?
Right. Well, I joined a new team at VMware after 4 years in professional services. I joined global services in 2014. And as we were getting started, our manager is very, very supportive of VCDXs. In fact, he probably owns the team with the most VCDXs in VMware. And so he said, look, we're putting together a study group as you join the team. If you'd like to join one of these groups and move forward with the VCDX, you can carve out a little bit of time from your working day to work on your VCDX. And I thought to myself, well, this is not a deal I'm likely to get again. And having been, and I was a consulting architect, and I really feel like those with an architect title in professional services at VMware or anywhere in VMware, they should have a VCDX behind their name, right, to really prove and credential themselves as real experts at VMware. So I joined a small group, and we ultimately all submitted for February 2015, and that's when I defended and got my first VCDX. But really, it was something that having the support of my manager and being given that opening inspired me to go ahead and go for it at that time.
Awesome. So was it first time out successful?
First time out. It was successful.
Wow.
My goal going into it was really just to not cry during the defense, because some of my practice defenses, I literally had to put my phone on mute and cry a little bit, and it succeeded, right? There was no crying on in my defense, and then I was really glad that I passed the first time around as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would you say was the biggest challenge in getting your VCDX?
You know, the VCDX cloud, I think, is a really, really tough one, because you have to understand cloud management and automation and integrations, but you also have to understand the infrastructure all underneath it that supports it. I come to VMware from the top-down perspective, so from the software development perspective. So really ensuring that I had the depth of knowledge needed in the infrastructure layer, for me, was one of the most challenging parts of getting that done. The other aspect to it is that it's just a ton of work, right? I mean, you really have to show your expertise and your architecture skills. So it's not just writing a good design, although that's, a big part of it, but then it's getting in front of people and defending that design and being able to be challenged on your design in the room and, confidently defend the choices that you make, or in some cases, think about alternative ways that things could have been done.
Well, I'm sure it took a lot of time and mental energy to do that. Did you have a support system from your family? How did you squeeze it all in?
It really did. It actually took time away from my family. I have a daughter and a husband, but luckily they were very understanding, and I kind of took the perspective of, I'm showing my daughter how you can put in that extra work to get it done. She was about, I don't know, maybe in the first or second grade. So when I came back, I had explained it like it was a contest, because she understood those things. So she wanted to know, did I win? And well, I don't know yet. We'll find out in a few weeks. But she really saw how putting in the extra time and putting in that effort can result in a success.
That's awesome. So afterward, what happened?
Yeah, I got to keep the little VCDX sticker on my computer, which is wonderful, right? And I proudly, wear my shirt, and I raise my hand, and I definitely tell people that I'm a VCDX. And for me, like as a woman in technology, sometimes when you're in the room, people presume that you're the project manager or that you're maybe the account exec or something. And it was a way to kind of shortcut that discussion and not have to establish myself as an expert. I could simply say, look, I'm a VCDX 189, so that's why I'm here, right? And it in a very nice way, it allows you to kind of shortcut some of those conversations for me. But on top of it, it led me down the path, which eventually let me become a principal architect at VMware, which is a big step for individual contributors to be a principal. You're really a global evangelist for VMware as part of our global field program. And one of the criteria to be a principal architect is to have your VCDX. They really go that extra mile. And so for me, it set me up to feel like this is something I could do, right? I could now set my sights on a path towards principal architect, which I had, took about another 3.5 years, but VCDX was really a first step. And it was shortly thereafter that I said, oh, wait, I could do principal architect.
What would you say is your favorite VMware product?
Oh, that's really hard because we have a lot of products. I think there are hundreds of them now.
Yes.
And it's an ever-growing portfolio. I've really spent a lot of time in cloud management. And I think really when you look at our cloud services portfolio, that's really unique, the way we're building up these SaaS services for infrastructure management. I mean, you would never think that that's something that you could do. And we really took that on a few years ago. And I think with each service that we add to the portfolio, we're knocking it out of the park with cloud services.
What is the coolest innovation you've come across recently?
Oh, well, today I just picked one of these up today for my Girls Who Code Club that I've run for the last 4 or 5 years with a professor at one of our local colleges. And what we have here, I'm going to try to show it on the video. This is the Circuit Playground Express. It's an Arduino device, and this little circuit allows you to do really simple programming. It uses kind of a make code where it's drag and drop like Scratch, or you can use Python, and it has a whole bunch of sensors like tilt sensors and light sensors and temperature sensors and moisture sensors and all sorts of things, as well as it's got LEDs and sound card, etc. And you can use this to make little devices to do all sorts of cool things, from nifty scientific experiments to zombie versus human games. And kids can really learn how to use these kind of IoT type devices to program, as well as a little bit about how hardware works as well, which, as an infrastructure company, I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely contributing to our future and our next VCDXs, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're like 12 now, but, in another 12 years, they'll be ready to be a VCDX.
Speaking of the future, what do you think will happen in the industry in, say, the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a really tough question, of course. In technology, things change at such a very rapid pace. I don't think, heck, I remember a number of years ago when I was working on a software package, and it was like, well, could this be run on virtual servers? And we're like, I don't know, virtual servers, right? And now everything's in the cloud and everything's mobile. And, we've got things like, Kubernetes is really making a lot of progress, for example, in the cloud native app space. I think that, we're going to continue to see that type of growth in the cloud native app. I don't think the cloud is really going anywhere from the types of services that people expect, to be able to access their devices and their data and their stuff from anywhere. That's definitely not going anywhere. But I do think we're going to see a continual pendulum shift between things that are in the cloud that companies don't control to shifting back and forth in the hybridity, where they're going to want to bring things back, on premises where they can control things, and having those kind of cloud management product so they can offer the same sort of cloud experience themselves is going to start happening as well. So we'll see that shift back and forth. I think probably it may shift, back and then forth again within the 5 years.
That makes a lot of sense. So for someone coming up in the industry right now, what would be your advice for them?
I think that we continue to automate things more and more. So look, you can't program anything without having some sort of physical device behind it, right? There are always servers. Serverless is not really without a server. There must be a server for the code to run. And that's true for everything. So that sort of stuff remains really important. But on the other hand, we're automating more and more. So while understanding the physical infrastructure, if you're into that, is really important, understanding some level of code is important as well. So I would emphasize for people coming up to try to do both things, right? Sort of like what we're doing with that circuit playground, being able to do something with hardware, but do something with software as well. So learn both aspects. As to which language to learn or which technology to focus on, it doesn't really matter. Pick one and the skills will ultimately transfer.
That makes sense. So for people pursuing a certification or potentially on their way to a VCDX, what advice would you give them?
Right. I mean, first of all, it's really hard to get started, I think. I'm not much of a certification person. So I actually did my VCP in September and got my VCDX about 9 months later. So you can do it very rapidly if you put your mind to it. But the main thing to do is to take that first step. The VCP in some ways is the most painful of the certifications, I think, because it's this multiple choice question aspect that can be difficult to study for and prepare when you're someone who, maybe does architecture work or more even the system admin work. So I find that one to be kind of the hardest hurdle to cover, and just do that, right? Get yourself down the first step down the path. And then I'm a firm believer in working together with a team, whether you do, two of you come together to do a design or whether you do independent designs, but have that accountability with somebody else to help drive you forward to get it done. So, set those independent goals and get there and give yourself enough time. I mean, realistically, I did the VCDX in probably it was 4 or 5 months from the time we started it until I defended it. But realistically, it's probably more of a 6 to 9 month process. I was lucky to have some time from my manager. Many people don't have that. So plan for 6 to 9 months, but I would definitely urge you to set aggressive deadlines, like within a year, like I'm going to do this, right? And get it done. Do the VCP in 3 months, right? And then give yourselves another 3 months to do the next exam and the next exam. And then spend, 6 to 9 months doing your actual VCDX. The key to remember though, if you have a goal to do your VCDX, you don't have to wait until you have all those other exams to start working on your design. Start thinking about the design in advance. Start working on that design in advance. And then as you get your underlying certs ready to go, you're that much further ahead to completing your VCDX.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing with our audience.
You're welcome. It was great to get to know you. Thanks so much for giving me a call.